Welcome back to another episode of the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast brought to you by Tacticam. Tacticam is by far the easiest way to begin filming your hunts. Whether it's the 4K 5.0 or the budget-friendly solo, Tacticam has something for everyone. You can check them out at tacticam.com. This year we are also working with Spartan Forge. Spartan Forge is machine learning for the white-tailed deer hunter. Spartan Forge is designed to deliver intuitive and science-based products to save the hunter time spent scouting, planning, and executing their hunts. Basically, what Spartan Forge does is it takes collared deer studies from all over the country, car deer accidents, insurance information, pictures you post on social media, and it puts all of that into a computer, and then it reads the data and then starts to predict where and when all of these things happen. And it goes back 30 years with weather data, patterns, and it puts all of that in there, and it predicts for you the best time that you should be in the woods. And that's all it does right now. This machine does not stop learning. It's pretty scary stuff, really. If they're doing this for deer, they can do this for people, they can do this for all different stuff. But right now, Spartan Forge is available online. It's at a fixed price right now. If you sign up now, that price is not going to change for the entire lifetime of your tenure as a Spartan Forge customer. But coming in August, it's going to be an app for your phone, and as this thing grows, it takes more data. So more data is more storage costs more money. So the price is going to go up. But if you sign up right now, prior to that expansion, that price will not change. And it's not a monthly thing, it's an annual fee. And you can check that out at spartanforge.ai. And when you sign up, if you use code BOWHUNTER, you can save 25%. And that will be your price for the entire thing. So it's definitely worth checking out. Right now, we're kind of out of deer season, so you'll go on there and it's going to tell you that deer are kind of sticking to their core area. They're really not moving around that much. That would be my guess. But they have a ridiculous pro staff. We're talking Garrett Prawl, Andy May, Greg Litzinger, Parker McDonald, guys all over the country in different regions. And this data is regional. So if you're in Maine or, Kentucky, Georgia, it's going to be tailored specifically to your zip code and your deer. And it's ever evolving. So they are trying to make this, actually, they're basically trying to test it to fail. And it's actually predicting 60 to 75% correct right now. So if it's telling you don't go hunt, you shouldn't be hunting. Maybe you can use that as a honeydew list day. And on the days that it's telling you to hunt, there's a 60 to 70% chance that you're going to see something. So it's definitely worth checking out. Very, very high level stuff for deer hunting. But again, spartanforge.ai. Got to give a shout out real quick to our latest Patreons, Cheney Gardenier in North Carolina and Nathan Golds. He's right here in Rockford, Michigan. Haven't met the guy, but it looks like he just had a baby. So congratulations on the new baby boy. Hope everything is going well. Hope to meet up with you. We're actually Tethered is coming to host a teach and train here in Muskegon at our local club. So if anybody's listening from around the Michigan area or within a reasonable drive, it's going to be a great event. Going to be April 10th. So you can go on Tethered's website and click on their teach and trains and sign up. Or we put a link on our Facebook to that. But it's going to be April 10th. So you can check that out. That's going to be cool. Also, we're giving away a bow. So we do a lot of giveaways through Patreon. I'll get into what Patreon is here in a second. But we're giving away a brand new Bowtech 2021 Carbon Zion. It's the upgraded Carbon Ion, upgraded Diamond Deploy bow I've been shooting for the last 3 years. Great bow, incredible value. We're coming out of pocket with this, working with Johnson's Great Outdoors in Montague. We're going to be giving you that bow fully set up with a Tetra sight from HHA as well as a rest from HHA. The bow is going to be ready to go, and all you got to do is go to our website and click on the link and sign up for the bow. You can go to our Instagram, click on the link, win the bow. That's all it is. There's about 150 people signed up right now, so your odds are pretty good to win this. And like I said, this is just something that we're doing to give back because we appreciate everybody that's listened for, as long as we've been doing this. Everybody that listens, we really appreciate it. But we do a lot of giveaways for our Patreons. We really appreciate them. We couldn't do everything that we do with this show without our Patreons. Patreon is a crowdfunding for podcasters, creators, whatever. Basically, there's tiers. You can sign up. There's different levels. You get different benefits for that, and you get additional entries into the giveaways, etc. It starts out like 17 cents a day, 33 cents a day, whatever, to help us do this. The podcast recorder that I'm recording on, the computer that I edit on, all of that is funded by our Patreons, hosting all of that. And you can check that out at patreon.com/Bowhunter Chronicles Podcast. There's a link on our website, link on Instagram. But this quarter, which is going to be ending here next week, so probably in 2 weeks, I'll be announcing the winner for all of this stuff that we're giving away. And these are each individual giveaways, so there's like 5 different sets of giveaways that we're doing. Tacticam is giving a 5.0 hunter package with a turkey reaper, and they've said whoever wins that, when you kill something with that camera, they want to edit the video for you. They want to put it on their social media. They want to showcase you as the winner. So that's pretty awesome. Latitude, we've had them on the show. They're local to us. I'm a fan of their Latitude Classic. They said, hey, we'll give you one of those to give away. Well, that's pretty awesome, except for what are you going to do with the saddle without all the other stuff? So Artisan Outdoor Fabrications, Zach Snyder over there is giving us one of their top stick platforms. I've got a set of XOP mini sticks, and then I ordered the new 8mm ropes from Tethered, so I've got all of that. We're giving that away as a kit. Spartan Forge has said, hey, we'll give you one of our year subscriptions to Spartan Forge and a swag pack, hat, that sort of thing. Base Map. So we love Base Map over here. We've been using it since we've heard of them. It's a lot cheaper than Onyx. It's $30 a year. We've got a code. You can use code Chronicles. You go online, save 20%. So it's $24 a year, $2 a month for the entire country. They have an exorbitant amount. They have tons and tons of layers online on your phone. And they are upgrading right now their offline maps. And I've been beta testing that. That's much improved over where they were. And I'm very happy with the offline maps. And like I say, they're giving away one of their year-long subscriptions, as well as a swag pack, hat, shirt, all of that. And like I said, you can check them out. Go online to basemap.com and use code Chronicles, save 20%. You're all set for the year. $2 a month for all your online mapping needs. And then Zinger Fletches. So these guys are local to us as well. They're Michigan guys anyway. Met them at last year's Tethered Teach and Train. Messed around with them. Well, they've got some new, so they're 3D printed fletchings. They're just slide-on compression fit. Their previous model were kind of stiff, more of like what you'd think of a 3D printed material. I just got a set of their new design, new shape to be quieter, but a new material. And this material is much like a vane. I mean, it's super flexible. Pretty awesome. I'm going to be shooting those at the Total Archery Challenge this year. I'm putting them on my arrows to really get out there, stretch it out, test out how these things work, how they fly, at shots 60, 70, 100 yards, whatever. and they're giving away some sets of those. So all this is happening within the next 2 weeks. So if you're listening to this before the second week in April, you can go to patreon.com/Bowhunter Chronicles podcast, sign up and be entered to win all of that. And then we've got swag packs that I send out to everybody because I really do just appreciate everybody. We couldn't do this without you. Now, this podcast today is completely off the wall. So John just got back from his trip fishing. We were just going to touch on it, and we got an hour's worth of John talking about his trip fishing down there, and it's super interesting. And if you are into learning about fishing, saltwater fishing, and all of that, you're going to really like this episode. If you just wanted to hear from John, because we haven't heard from him in a while, going to be a great episode. But let us know what you think. Get a hold of us. Reach out on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. If you're Patreons, you got my phone number. Text me. Let me know how this podcast went, because I really enjoyed it, but it's completely off the wall for us, and it's a little bit out of character. But anyways, thank you for listening. Enjoy the episode. All right, everybody, Adam and John back with another episode of the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast. We have just been sitting here shooting the shit, having a ball, talking about all the world's problems, the problems with the bow hunting community, saddle hunting, archery, fishing,
pandemic, guns, end of the world, POC.
Yeah, you right now go over to our Instagram, click on this post, and say, who do you think's talking about what topics? It's funny, we don't ever talk about guns or anything on here. I mean, other than we say we don't really hunt with guns, but it's funny. I like guns. I have a lot of guns.
I have a few guns, just like very, what would you say? I have a shotgun. I used to shoot a ton of skeet.
Pragmatic.
Not pragmatic, just like very ordinary guns. Or like.
You're saying I'm not ordinary?
No, me.
No, I'm saying so.
No, your guns are not ordinary. No, I think there's some we can't even mention in this podcast because we might have
I'm definitely on the list.
The federal government knocking on someone's door. But no, I have a pistol. I have a 9mm pistol. I have a 12 gauge Benelli shotgun. I have a 7mm Magnum Seiko rifle, and then a 10-22 Ruger. That I've had since it was actually Uncle Frank's, from when I was probably from before I was born. And that one actually went through when we lived in Florida. They got stolen. We came up for Christmas and found out that our house had gotten broke into while we were gone, and they took all of our guns, and that was the only gun that we recovered. And we didn't get that back until we lived in Florida for, I don't know, 3 years or something. Came back to Michigan, and it was like 2 years after we were back in Michigan, my dad got a call from the Broward County Police Department, and they recovered that gun in a sting.
So I remember that story, but I didn't remember that it was just the one gun.
Yeah, the rest of them, like the actual, like he had a set of Ithaca trap and skeet, like a 12 and 20. Just, I remember they were like beautiful engraving and all that. Never got those back. They said they threw those in the freaking creek or something, or in the canal, because they were too unique. They couldn't get rid of them. So,
I was going to say, my thoughts were, they pawned them for $50 or something.
Well, yeah, the Ruger 10-22. I mean, that's like everybody had them, so it was an easy gun to get rid of. But the freaking matching trap and skeet, they tossed them in the canal.
So speaking of Florida, we haven't really talked about your trip to Florida, going fishing and going down there. And I wanted to we posted a picture of John's, bench with all the fishing stuff and all that. And it's like, when I go fishing, like I went to Florida or I went to Mexico and I went on a charter, that's not what you were doing, right?
No. Well, I've been all over like the world. I mean, Barbados, Cayman, freaking Cabo, all over. And I've always gone on charters, and it's just like, because that's what, I mean, like when you're going out into a different country, you're not going to be renting a boat and going and trying to fish. And so I've done all that. When I started going to Cabo, I started bringing my own surf gear because that's what I used to do in Florida all the time. And then, so I'd start walking the beaches, whatever, surf fishing, but we'd still go out. That's where I caught my striped marlin down there. We caught tuna and all that. We went fishing in Cayman, several times, went on charters and stuff. And I think we caught a barracuda there. I mean, but hopefully every place that we've went though. So we went to Barbados. It was like back in 2009, and we got on a charter, and it was a half-day charter, and the people we had the second half. The first half of the day, they come rolling in, and they caught a wahoo and a barracuda, and the couple took the freaking barracuda meat and left the wahoo. And we're like, so we go out, we didn't catch shit. And so my buddy Mark's like, hey, he's talking to the captain, Breezy was the guy's name, and he's like, hey, Breezy, since we just went for a boat ride, why don't you give me that wahoo? And he's like, oh, no, we got to talk to that's the owner. She's going to be at the dock, so you can talk to her. And he ended up talking her we got half of that wahoo, and we ended up eating that, and it was like the best fish in the world. And so,
is that why you're always saying, like, I'm going to catch a wahoo?
Exactly.
On this?
It's been like we've gone everywhere, and everywhere we've gone on these charters and stuff. And like Mark finally, he went to the Keys like a few years ago, and we went to Florida also. But it was like it was a family trip for us that year, and they went down, and he ended up getting a wahoo. But everywhere else we've gone, we get on the boat, like, we want to catch a wahoo. We don't care what anything else. And they're like, no wahoo around, man. In Mexico, they're like, no wahoo, man. Marlin. I'm like, no, we don't want a freaking marlin. We want wahoo. And they're like, well, you can't catch what's not here. But so anyway, that was a big old tangent. But so when I, started going back to Florida, like I said, I've always surf fished and everything. And then it kind of transitioned a few years ago, rented a boat. Well, I went down and got my buddies, a guy I used to work with, his dad lives down there, and he was a charter captain, and he had his own personal boats and stuff. So the time that we were down there, he was working his charter, so we go out with him, and, good time and everything. But it's like, man, I know how to fish. I don't need, I don't need to pay a charter. And so then I started looking into renting boats. So I rented my own boat the next time. And then this last time, I'm like, all right, I'm renting the boat for a whole week. Had a 26-footer, twin engines, real nice boat. And then I started putting my gear together. And it was actually, it's a year later than what I was supposed to, because last year we had it booked. And then due to COVID, we had to cancel everything, And so then this year rolls around, and we made it down there. But my wife was like fed up with me for the last 2 months before this trip. Like, I haven't shot my bow, nothing. I was just, doing research, had my Navionics out every day, watching YouTube videos, and I started building my own lures and everything. I brought 14 rods down, and I mean, all brand new, braid line, everything I researched everything, what line I should have. The rods, I did end up getting a few new rods and stuff, for saltwater, but I brought a bunch of actually some reels from Frank, which I don't recommend, the old Penn 209s, because I caught a blackfin tuna on it, and it was the shotgun rod, which is the longest one, way in the back, and it was like reeling in with a freaking ice fishing rod. Like, I mean, literally, like I felt like I was just spinning my wheels.
Was it really geared for?
Right, yeah. The handle is like tiny, and I felt like I was like a little kid with a Zepco 202. It was like reeling in, because it took freaking probably 200 yards of line. They'll hold a lot. It holds like 400 yards or 350 yards, and like I said, that's the long rod, and I was like, oh shit. I'm like, slow the boat down, Mark. You know, I mean, we still had the whole spread out, but I don't know, it was fun, but definitely a lesson there. So I got another year. I already got the boat rented. So next year we're going for 2 weeks. And I already have the boat rented for the 2 full weeks, the same boat.
So you didn't get a Wahoo?
No Wahoo. But what's funny, though, I mean, like, all the research, I mean, this is long drawn out, whatever, but, like, everyone, like, the charter captains in the Keys, you know, we stayed in Marathon. There's a couple. One is Captain Ryan Van Fleet from Good Karma Sport Fishing. And he has a podcast, like I think I mentioned it in one of my photos on Instagram. Like he has a ton of information. He has like classes that you can go and pay and do courses. But he's in Key Largo. So that's the first key. So he will go out after Wahoo. But he's like one of the only ones that I could find or know of that actually will target Wahoo. Most of the charter captains, they're not going to go that because people don't want to go out and just go after one specific fish and spend $1,000, you know, and because it's pretty much hit or miss. Like you catch them in the morning, you know, you might get one. It's very specific. Like if you're high speed trolling, that's pretty much the only fish you're going to catch. I mean, when I say high speed trolling, they're going from 12 to 20 knots. I mean,
what is that in normal people miles an hour?
Like 14 knots is about 16 miles per hour. I mean, so give or take. I'm not exact on it, but it's flying. I mean, my first boat didn't even go 20 miles an hour, you know. I mean, it didn't even go 10. Yeah. And so I did all the research, you know, it's like from 100, 150 out to 300 foot of water, you know, outgoing tide, 3 to 4 days before the full moon. And all that stuff ended up like working out perfect. Like I'm like, oh shit. Like I told my wife, I'm like, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are like perfect days. It's the tide is right in the morning. It's outgoing. The moon is, you know, it was full on Saturday. And just as long as the weather holds up, we can get out there. I'm like, we got to be out early trolling. And I had all the baits, you know, everything that, you know, for slow troll. I didn't have the reels. I mean, you're pulling 48-ounce lead with a 2-pound lure, high-speed trolling. So you got to have a freaking massive rod and reel. I mean, you know, I mean, they're using 50 wides by the minimum. This is getting pretty technical, but big freaking reels with a lot of drag, talking 40, 50 pounds of drag on these reels to hold these lines when you're pulling them. So anyway, we were slow trolling, which was still, we were trolling at 9 knots or 9 miles an hour. So 7 knots, 8 knots, but 9 miles per hour. I think at one point we even got up to 10. But I found all the wrecks and stuff, and I put all these waypoints on my Navionics on my phone. So then that was the first thing I did. Like once I got the boat, pulled up, it had a nice Garmin graph GPS chart plotter. And the Garmin is like actually affiliated with Navionics now. So it had some of the waypoints already in there. But then I added all the ones that didn't, that I had already researched. So I was looking for a certain wreck in the, you know, the the depth range I was looking for. And I was looking for, so that was everything too. When we got down there, the water had been cold. So the water temperature was all the way down to 75. So like the dolphin were pushed out, the blackfin tuna were pushed out. They were getting mutton snapper, but the yellowfin tuna the yellowtail snapper, which is like one of the biggest things that everybody goes after, they were all scattered, you know, so they were getting small ones. They weren't getting the big schools of nice size, or they call them flag yellowtails. So like, man, that's a bummer, you know. So, but we went out. We had the first 3 days were windy. I tried getting out there. The one night, I think we went out. Mark and I went out Tuesday or Sunday night, Monday night. And we shouldn't have went out. Like, I never get seasick, but I was already like dealing with some cold, and I was having, I was kind of dizzy from that, and I was drinking cold medicine, And we went out and I was trying to set rods, and it was like 8-footers. And they wasn't just rollers. There were some that were breaking when we're 10 miles out. And so I don't know if anyone's been on Lake Michigan 10 miles out, but it's like a whole different world. I mean, when you're in the ocean, the next thing is freaking Cuba, in the Gulf Stream. You get in the Gulf Stream, that's running 6 knots. So, or 6 miles per hour. And if you get out in that and you're gone. Bye-bye. I mean, it's going to take 2 hours for someone to find you or get out there, and you could be freaking, a long way off. So we got out, did some trolling on the days that were good. We caught a mahi, caught a blackfin, did not get a wahoo. But as we were wahoo trolling, I seen one of the guys that I follow on YouTube, and it's the Florida Sport Fishing Magazine, Captain Mike, and he does all these seminars. So I'd watched all of his seminars. He's got them from everything: deep drop, slow trolling, planer trolling, high speed wahoo trolling. I'm like, man, that looks like the Florida Sportsman's boat. But he's from Hillsboro, which is all the way up by north of Miami, and we're down in Marathon. Sure enough, it was him, and they were high-speed trolling. Next thing you know, I'm trying to get the freaking camera out that Adam had just dropped off the day before I left, and here we go again. I pushed the button, I thought, and I'm recording, recording his boat, and then get done, and I turn it off, and I put it back up in the bag, and I had 30 minutes of the bag. So when I thought I turned it off, as when I finally turned it on. So once again, I'm the world's worst bow hunter. I'm the world's worst videographer. But so on his Instagram, he had caught a wahoo. On Thursday, I'm like, well, we were in the right place, right time. We just didn't get the fish. But then I made my own ballyhoo net, because I was like, I'm not paying. Even the cheapest ballyhoo net was like $150, and then the next one is like $2. You can spend all the way up to $330 on a hoop net. So I have in saltwater, when you go to catch your own bait, you have most people use a cast net. So, and I have a cast net. I've had it since 2005, 2006. And, I bring it I brought it to Cayman and catch my own bait. But when you're a ballyhoo is a bait that they come up on the surface as you're chumming. You get out on the patch reefs, they're called, 20, 30 feet of water, and you start chumming for yellowtail and everything, get your chum slick going. Well, these ballyhoo, they're just long needle looking fish. They come up in and they're right on the surface, and they're pretty sketchy. They get spooked easily. Well, you have to be really good. Guys do it, but you got to have, most of them are using a real heavy net and a big one, 10, 12 footer, and they throw their cast net on top, and then you got to have one that sinks really quick when you're in that deep of water, so it, closes around them. Yeah. And so I'm like, I have a 6-footer, and it's just a little light one. It's just like a shore net. Is what I, always used it for. And so, but the ballyhoop net, that's the actual brand name. You buy that, you throw it out. It looks like a hula hoop with a net attached to it. You throw it out, and you let it just go back in the current behind the boat in the chum slick. Well, then all the ballyhoos swim in front of it, and you just pull it in. So if anyone wants to see it, just Google ballyhoop net. So, I'm like, man, I have that old cast net. Had it for freaking 15 years now. I'm like, I'm going to make my own. So I end up taking a piece. I have a whole roll of 1/2-inch pecks. So I made a 4-foot diameter hoop with that. Then I cut it in half, and I got a couple connectors, drilled it, and then got some little pin clips so I could separate it in half. And then I just took and I laid my cast net over it, and then cut all the lead weights off, and then zip tied it all the way around. So
now is there are there like tutorials on YouTube on how to make this? I mean, like, so it's
No.
like you should have did a video on like making.
I looked for it, and I did find one guy that used I think he used a hula hoop, but there was no tutorials or anything. The guy just like, yeah, I made my own out of a hula hoop, and I'm like, well, I made it out of pecs because I had literally there's a 100-foot roll laying there in the garage of blue, and so all I do is I didn't have enough zip ties, so when I was up at the hardware store, I grabbed a bag of zip ties and I bought some blue ones so to match. So we can take a picture of it. It's sitting right behind me in the garage here, but it worked great. So we got up, and that's like one of the key things. Like you can go and buy squid. We bought some rig ballyhoo for that first night just because we weren't going to go catch bait, but I had all the stuff. I had already built up all my rigs and everything to rig my own. But so we bought a case of chum, and then we bought one thing of bionic ballyhoo rigged with wire and one with mono, and it's literally you get 3 baits, and it's $15 a bag. So we spent $30 for 6 baits, and then with my hoop net, we go out, when we could get out there and chummed up, and we caught over 2 dozen. Just sitting there while we're fishing for the other fish. I'm got the net out and pull it in and throw them in, and our boat had a live well, throw them in, and that's like everything eats those. So we had enough. We got done dinking around with the fish on the patch reefs, and we had enough ballyhoo, so I'm like, all right, now we're going to go out and catch a mutton. I mean, that was like the plan, but the plan never works. And my buddy Mark, who's with, he wanted to hire a captain to go on the boat. I'm like, no, we don't need a captain. I think I've got enough information in my head now that we'll figure it out.
So in hindsight, would that have been a good
to hire a captain?
Yeah.
If you're not confident in your own, it is a good thing to do.
No, I mean for you.
I did not want a captain on my boat.
No, I know that you didn't want one, but I'm just saying, would it have been beneficial?
Actually, I'm not trying to be cocky or anything, but like everything I think I said it, someone asked in one of the posts when we posted the picture of that, like, what are you going after? And I'm like, mahi, mutton snapper, blackfin tuna, and I'd love a wahoo. So those were the 4 target species. And pretty much anyone can go out and you can either sight fish for the mahi, dolphin, or you can troll for them. And so it's just like if you have the right rigs, you can dumb luck into one. And when you find those, you finally, usually find the blackfin tuna. Those are, it's just trolling, throw out some shit and just troll. Mutton, on the other hand, that takes a specific, like you're bottom fishing and you got to find the right structure. You got to either be by a wreck or where some good structure is on the bottom. And it's, you can catch them up on especially right now, this time of year, when the water was cold like that, it pushed them, there was some up on the patch reefs and from 20 to 50 foot of water. But normally you're looking in 100, 120, even all the way up to 300 feet of water for these fish. And so, like I said, I had already mapped all these spots out with my Navionics. I'm like, okay, we're going to fish this wreck. Now we got the bait. We're closest to this wreck. We're going to go here. And sure enough, I get out there, find the buoys and stuff, because some of them are marked with buoys. They have divers and stuff. And there's a couple charter boats in the area. And set up the drift. And so I'm telling Mark, I'm like, all right, I'm tying up his rig. And like I was the captain of the boat, or the first mate. And I'm like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to run a 6-ounce bank sinker on a slider, and then a 30-foot leader. And I end up running 20-pound fluorocarbon, which is actually kind of light. Most of them run 30 to 40 pound. But I'm like, I'm just going to go a 20-pound fluorocarbon leader, 30 foot. And he's like, why such a long leader? I'm like, mutton snapper are weight shy. They like a long leader. Just trust me. This is what everyone says. So this is what we're going to do. And so put on a 5-0 circle hook, break the beak off a fresh ballyhoo, put him on, you rig it right through the bottom of his mouth, out through his snout, throw him out, drop down the lead. I'm like, all right, when it gets to the bottom, just take the clicker off and keep your thumb on the, spool. We're using conventional reels and with 50-pound braid and then that mono, or the fluorocarbon leader. So I'm like, if it starts to take it, you just let him take it for a minute. Make sure he's there because they're just going to grab it and eat it, and you want them to eat it. And you want that circle hook to do what it's supposed to do. It's not like a J hook, like we're used to seeing bass fishermen ripping their lips off like we used to do. Circle hook's not like that. Circle hook, you let them take it, eat it, and then they start swimming away. All you do basically is you can just kind of point the rod in their direction and just start reeling. And what that does is it pulls that hook out of their gut, and then they're swimming away, and then it just circles right into their jaw. So you don't if you set the hook, you can actually rip it out of their mouth without them, without setting it.
And that's why I had such a problem when I was fishing in Sayulita the last time, because it was the same thing. We were fishing on this reef, and you just throw it out there, but he's like, just pinch it in your fingers, and then when they take it, just start reeling. And I was like, fucking, like it took me like probably a half hour and probably 15 misses to land a fish.
Yeah, because it's just not in your head, like, just start reeling. No, I got to set the hook. No. Mm-hmm. Now, it's different when we're trolling with a J hook. Most guys, unless you're in the Gulf is a whole different set of rules. When you get on the Gulf side, that's pretty much all J hook or all circle hook, I'm sorry. J hook are illegal over there because of the red snapper or their population. I mean, all the snapper, the regulations on size and everything. And they don't want them, those fish are aggressive. They just freaking down in their gut. They get the hook in there and then, they die. So, but I wouldn't even use a J hook for bottom fishing just because it's just,
they're just going to eat it. I mean,
it's
not
such a for sure thing with the circle hooks, but trolling's a little different because them fish are hitting it going fast and you want to get it. And especially if you get a wahoo, you want to be able to get that hook and then, set it or have the drag set really high so it sets itself because they got a really bony mouth.
Anyway, Mark's on the bottom.
So Mark's on the bottom, and sure enough, I'm like, if it starts taking it, just, let him take it, and then just start reeling. And I'm not even, this is no bullshit, I'm not even done tying up my leader on my rig, and all of a sudden Mark's, got a fish on. I'm like, sweet, reels it up, and it's a dandy mutton. And so I'm like, sweet. So then I get my rig out, and we get back and and we were in 114, 120 foot of water. And so I think we were just drifting. I wasn't going to mess around with the anchor out there. And so we set up on the next drift and then all of a sudden, boom, I got one and then missed a couple on the next. And then it was getting later in the afternoon. So we ended up with 2 nice muttons that night. Next morning we go out trolling again. That day was beautiful. I think that was the day we caught. I think that the second day was the day we caught the mahi in the morning on the troll, and then we got the blackfin tuna on the troll in the evening. And then the last day we fished was the day we seen the Florida Sportsman on Thursday, and we were trolling for the wahoo. Got back to the same wreck area, but the dive boat was on it. And when the dive boat's there, you got to stay 200 feet away for the safety of the diver. So that pretty much, you want to stay. The one trick that I learned, and this was, I'd heard like there's, they give advice about fishing the wrecks and stuff. And, they're like, stay away from the wreck. The mutton snapper, if you're focusing on those, they'll go out and they'll get away from the wreck. You don't have to be tight to the wreck. They'll be on the little sand flats next to it and stuff. So if you get closer to the wreck, that's when you really get in by the sharks, because the sharks like to hang out. And as soon as there's a fish on your line and they're in distress, that's like a trigger for them sharks. Sure enough, the last morning that we went out there, Thursday when we trolled, after we got back, or, we trolled until like we were done. Like, let's go check out the wreck because we had some dead ballyhoo left over from the day before. We I butterflied a couple and then had some plugs, but that the dive boat was there. So we're like, We went in, got lunch, came back out, caught some more fresh ballyhoo, I got a Cero mackerel, which was fun. He cut me off on the first one. And so I quick tied up a little wire leader, threw another ballyhoo out on the surface. And all of a sudden it was just like taking off. Catch him, reel him in. Nice little keeper. When I flayed him up, I found my first hook in his belly. And then caught some other yellowtails. Ended up gaffing a Bermuda chub, which is considered a junk fish, which is funny because I just seen Steve Ranella just yesterday posted a picture of him holding up 2 Bermuda chubs that he shot, or his kid shot with the spear guns. And he's like, most people, don't eat these, or, something similar to that, but they're great eating. Well, I had seen Land Shark, another guy that's on YouTube that I followed. He's got great information too. And then Haiku from South Florida Fishing Channel. He's seen Land Shark. Land Shark does all these little silly videos. Like he sometimes eats his bait. Like if you don't catch a fish, he's like, oh, we're going to flay up the mullet and try it, cook, catch, clean, and cook with that. So they tried a Bermuda chub. And actually, like it won the taste test between that yellowtail snapper and some other fish. I might have been freaking barracuda or something. I don't remember what the third fish was, but the Bermuda chub won. So Haiku, I see in his video, he's like, he was out spearfishing, and he's like, well, I didn't see anything to shoot except all these Bermuda chubs, so I shot one since Land Shark said they're good. So he does a taste test. He's like, man, this is really good. So when those come up into the chum slick, I'm like, I'm trying to catch them, and I couldn't get them to bite anything. And they're literally biting the chum bag. So I grabbed my gaff, and I gaffed a big one. And when we ate that, my wife liked that best because I cooked that up with the yellowtail and the Cero mackerel, which the Cero mackerel is more of like a sashimi or, a sushi grade fish.
Yeah. Yeah, so we got a bunch of those when I was in Mexico.
Cero or Spanish?
Well, the Spanish mackerel.
It's the same but different.
So we did ceviche with that, and all we did is just cut it up and a little bit of lime. And
yeah. And that's what I would have done with it, but our wives don't like that style. They like it cooked. And so, but the Bermuda chub won the taste test and
for you.
For us too. So I mean, it was excellent. So Bermuda chubs, beware.
And what? So I mean, I gotta ask for this. Like, what's the legal method to take for Bermuda chub?
Anything. Like you can spear them, gaff them, net them, whatever you want to do, because they're considered just like a junk fish or non-game fish, no regulations.
I just wanted to clarify, like it's just out there.
Basically, like our carp here, but they're good eating. And well, that's the thing too. Like some people eat our carp and think they're great. So yeah, it was. I mean, we ended up going back out. So we went and got those Cero mackerel, got the Bermuda chub, whatever. I'm just rambling on and on, but got enough ballyhoo, and we were going to head back out to the wreck and get we had like a ton of time for the evening bite. Figured we could get our limit. Well, Mark's wife she wasn't feeling well, so we had to run all the way back to the house. Well, we're like 7-8 miles from the house. So we run all the way back, drop them off. We're like, might as well get some lunch. And then we head back out. Well, that's 10 miles out to where the wreck we were fishing. So we get back out there, and it's just, we got probably an hour and a half before it's dark. So plenty of time to catch a few fish. So right off the bat, we get on the drift, and the drift was perfect that afternoon. It was like a nice east to west drift. and we could get right across the backside. And first drift through, Mark hooks another dandy, gets him up to the boat. I get bit off twice. And then so I ended up like, well, I'm going to tie on. I tied a little wire leader, which, the mutton and I didn't even get a bite on that. So stay away from the wire leader, because Mark ended up, he caught the next drift. He hooked up another mutton, but he got it probably, we could see it coming up, and then all of a sudden a big gray shadow, gray and white. Whoop. He's like, there's my fish. I'm like, no, that's a shark. And all of a sudden his rod, he's reeling up, and all of a sudden his rod's like, gone. And I'm like, you just got sharked. He's like, what? I'm like, oh yeah, the drift was pulling us in closer to the wreck. Freaking next drift, we go out, and Mark hooks in to, it must have been a stingray or a Goliath grouper, something that didn't even know it was hooked, because he just hooked it. At one point, I do have some pretty good film of this. He just put it in the rod holder, and it was literally just swimming, just like zzz. So we followed this thing around for at least 35 minutes. It was probably closer to 45 minutes. And I'm like, and he never got it. He might have got it 5 feet off the bottom. And now we're in 130 foot of water. Like, as we're going, we're just following this thing around. And then finally I'm like, dude, you got 50-pound braid, but you only got a 20-pound leader. I'm like, if we had all day, we might be able to get this fish and see what it is, but do you want to really waste the rest of our evening, and then break it off? So, yeah, all right. So he ends up breaking it off. So then we get back on the drift again. He hooks up another nice mutton, and I'm like, just reel. And he's just reeling as fast as he can, and all of a sudden, gone. And he's like, fuck those sharks, and throws his rod in the rod holder. I'm done. I'm like, well, all right. I said, well, let's just push off a little farther. We're just getting too close to the wreck. So we go back out. Next drift, bam, I hook up, and I wish I would have had video of this, because I was like freaking on crack trying to get this thing up, and got just legal, nice little 19-incher. The mutton snaps have to be 18 inches. And so then he's like, oh, well, maybe he starts thinking around with the rod. I'm like, I quick run back, get on the drift again. Bam, I catch another one. And then he's getting his rod out, retied and everything. And we end up, so we got three in the boat, and he got sharked twice on 2 other ones. So we would have had 5 just in that short, hour and a half. Then it got dark, so we went in. And so that was Thursday night. Friday morning, got up, it was windy again. And the boat, we had to return the boat by 4 o'clock that afternoon. So we didn't even fish. We just we went over to the one sandbar where it's a little protected, and then we went out to golf and just sightseed our way back, because it was about 5 miles to the marina where we had to return the boat. But so I felt pretty good, because those were the fish that I was going after, and I got them. And especially that, like they said, that the dolphin weren't in. They definitely weren't in, and schooled up where you could go catch it, 5, 10, 15, 20 schoolies. But we caught I got one nice cow, and then I got one small, blackfin tuna.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, as far as what does that look like as far as numbers? That's the only thing I would have questioned, is if you would have went with a captain or something, would you have been able to hit better numbers? Or
so my buddy Jason was down at the same time, and he was staying right in a marina. He was staying in a condo that had a marina right there. And so he went down and talked to the charter boats coming in every night. And he's like, yeah, the charter boats, they didn't have shit. He's like, we trolled. He talked to one. He's like, yeah, we went out trolling for dolphin. And he's like, there ain't any in. So we just wasted our time. We should have went out to the Gulf and went and got the mangrove snapper. And that was the day I got a dolphin in the morning and a tuna at night. So, and like I said, they're usually kind of together. You get out. We didn't get all the way out to the humps where I wanted to go. For one, I didn't know it, didn't say anything about it in the rental agreement online or my contract. But when we got there, verbally, she's like, we have a 25-mile limit. I'm like, it's 27 miles to the beginning of the humps. And I was planning on, getting there and then going even farther, 30, 33 miles, 35. But so I didn't push it.
Did you get that rectified for next year?
No. I think we'll just see how it goes. But I didn't want to push it, especially with like the windy conditions. Like I said, the first 3 days they were Saturday, Sunday, Monday, too windy to. I mean, we got out. We did we were in the boat every day. We weren't going out fishing. Like I said, we tried it that one night trolling, and it was pretty bad. We were the only boat out there. And there's usually a lot of freaking boats out of Marathon.
I just think about like your Wahoo experience there, and it's like because other than that, you got all the fish that you were targeting, right?
And and then the Florida Sportman caught.
I'm just saying that it's just like if you like went in to hunt a spot and you knew it was there, and then you seen Dan Infalt and Mario dragging out a 150. You're like, God, I knew it was in here. Like,
right. Yeah, and that's the whole the whole time I'm in there. I'm like, I'm confident in all the information that I've read and followed up on. I'm like, but then when it's happening, you're second guessing yourself. Like, man, really? Maybe I'm in the wrong spot. Maybe we should go over here. Maybe we should do this. Maybe I should just change my spread and put out a freaking dolphin spread, or maybe we should just go bottom fishing. And I'm like, no, this is the day, this is the time. We got to just keep up, keep at it. And then sure enough, Captain Mike, and then like his post is like, literally, I took a picture of it and sent it to Mark. It was the Thursday, and we seen him fighting the fish. We were too far away to see what, and they're like holding it up and everything. I'm like, what is it? And here he is holding up a picture of a wahoo right off the coast of Marathon, high-speed trolling, on Thursday. I'm like, son of a bitch, I was right. So.
That's cool, man. Like for me, everything, it's all like foreign. Like,
and the fish I caught, the bait that I caught, the dolphin on was a sea witch that I tied up myself and rigged. I had a double hook rig, bought some bait strips that the Land Shark guy, promotes, and the Good Karma guy. And then I was running that on what they call a poor man's downrigger, which is a number 8 planer, sea planer, old salty planer, which is the old metal one with an 8-ounce lead on it. And I'm running that right off the back of the boat on a cleat. And then I bought some freaking old shower curtain rod rings. I got one right here. Clip that on, and then a number 32 rubber band. So that's my breakaway, the old style. Wrap that around I let out, 50, 100 feet of line, wrap the rubber band around your line, clip that into the shower clip, and then hook that onto the line for the planer, and then you just let it back, and it just follows that down. So when you get done, what's crazy is that's how they look. They were perfectly chrome-looking clips, and by the time we got done trolling, because you just pop it off, and then so when you get done and bring them up, and there might be 5 or 6 clips riding on the top of that planer, all of them were rusty as shit. In an hour, 2 hours. Like, holy crap. What? Some pot metal.
So if the listeners have made it this long, right, and they're like, I've never heard John talk this much. I didn't know. I knew he was like anal about learning stuff and all this stuff, and they're about this with fishing. They got to be saying, like, do you or why don't you have your captain's license even for fishing around
here? So working on it
in Michigan. So what does that entail?
So a captain's license is a captain license. I mean, it's Coast Guard. So, but there's different variations of it. Like the one that most people are going to have is called a 6-pack, and you can get that. You just got to have 360 days on the water, right? But there's a 6-pack, there's a Great Lakes one, so then you have to have at least 90 days on the Great Lakes. And then there's like a near shore, which is like saltwater. Near shore is from like shore, or they have an inshore, then they have a near shore. Near shore is like all the way up to the 100-mile mark. So pretty much, and then they have like the master's license, and master's license goes up in tonnage. Like the smallest one is 25 tons, and it goes all the way up to unlimited, where you get an unlimited master's, and you can be the one, running the barges across the ocean. But it all depends. Like minimum, you have to have 360 days on the water, and it can be in your own boat. It can be, you can just go down, like you can go to the nearest dock and just go out and find a charter and be like, hey, I need some time on the boat. I'll be your mate. Whatever, work for free. That's why you get down in like the Keys or Florida, and the mates don't get paid most of the time. They work for free. They're getting their hours in and experience. There's nothing beats the experience of being on a charter boat. Just from my time, all the times I've rented charter boats, and it's like, man, I've picked up a lot, because I'm not just sitting there drinking beer and kick back, having a good time, waiting for a fish to bite. I'm sitting there right there with the first mate, watching him tie the shit up, watching him how he's rigging it. Why are we doing this? I'm asking the questions, and then next, I'm helping him set out rods, and some boats don't like that, because they can still, you lose an ocean rod, you're talking, you could be dropping $1,000. Some of them reels are $1,000. But so the captain's license thing is, it's just, once you get your hours in, then you have to take an exam, and they have like courses and stuff to help you. You got to learn. One of the biggest things is like rules of the road, navigation. You got to know the beacons, the signals, the signs, and that, I guess, is one of the toughest. So, but once you get it, you got to have like a CPR, certification. It's called a TWIC card, which is like a worker's card, and a physical and stuff.
So why, what are you doing? Like logging your hours on these boats right now? Or, how are you working towards it?
So I have to get the paperwork, because I can go back and log all the hours from the boats I've, owned in the past. And then I can even log the hours once I get if I can call up the rental place, and they can sign my waiver that, because they have to certify that they're the owner of the boat, blah, blah, blah. And I was on it. So I just need to get my hours, figure out where I'm at with the hours. And then I'm going to take I think it's called Mariners. They have like an online course that helps you. They point you through the whole thing. And then when I get down to Florida the next time, so in order to get the Florida, or the near coast, or near shore, you have to have 90 days on the ocean. So, so I can get my captain's license up here, like a Great Lakes, and then get down there, and I can log my 90 days. As soon as I get my 90 days in, then I can transfer it to a near shore.
That's a lot of years of weeks of vacation.
Yeah. Well, I got 2 weeks next year. Well, 3 weeks. We're actually going for Christmas. Then we're also going back down for 2 weeks with our friends, and end of February again. So, well, our plan. I don't know. You guys might be missing me in a few years or a couple years. Doubt you miss me at all. Period. Because it's normally Adam talking, but my goal is to be retired down there pretty soon. Jet's 17. He graduates next year. The other, my girls are all in college or graduated college, so they don't give a shit. Jet wants to go to school in Florida, so we'll see how that works out. There's hunting down there too, though. We can go do some pig hunting, turkey hunting. Maybe we can hook up with deer meat for dinner.
Yeah, like I said, I wanted to have you tell this on the podcast, just because, like, I've I mean, this is the most probably that you've ever talked on a podcast. I keep looking over at the thing because I think it's just going to be just this for this episode right now. Because I mean, we're at like almost an hour
Right.
of. But when you ask John about anything fishing, like if you ask John about like building strings or tuning bows, I can get about the same amount of information out of him. But when you ask him about like fishing stuff, it's like a whole nother realm of like we're like scratching the surface of a whole nother depth of what John does, you know.
Well, I mean, and I love fishing, and I know there's a ton of guys, out there that fish way more than me. I don't even own a boat right now. I mean, I got kayaks.
We're gonna drop one off, and like, so we talked about building this bow fishing boat last year, and John was like, "Oh yeah." Well, the thing was like John never went and got the boat, so we told him today that we're dropping the boat off in his driveway.
And I told my wife, I said, "Hey, there might be a project boat showing up in our yard before you know it, because that's my other plan too." And we kind of touched on this. My plan is like you look for boats. I want a center console boat. I mean, like the boat we had down there was a 26-foot center console. It had twin 150s, which is like a perfect size. Anything over that, now you're starting into, you're really starting to burn more fuel. I mean, like I said, we didn't really fish 4 of the 7 days, and we still burned up 200 gallons of fuel, at $4 a gallon. So,
jeez.
I mean,
that's why chargers cost so much.
Absolutely. I mean, and then prices were actually low at the time, I mean, and now they're just going up. So that was the thing. Like I actually talked when I was figuring out the boat for next year for the 2 weeks, I'm like, we're going to have a couple more people. So we might need a bigger boat because that 26-footer just didn't have, and then plus you got, another couple or two to split it with. So I started looking into their 32-footer, and she's like, yeah, it's a great boat. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's a gas guzzler. It's way heavier. It's a 32-foot Century, and it had twin 225s or twin 250s. And when she says it's a gas guzzler, I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I don't want to deal with that right now. So I'm looking. My ultimate goal is I want to get a project boat like an old Mako, Grady White, something, or even. I'm looking at some Wellcraft, something that has a good hull, and then completely gutting it, stripping it down, and doing all the fiberglass work myself. If I have to strip it all the way to the bare hull, put in new stringers, design the whole deck and, compartments, fuel tank, all that, and center console, and put on like an Armstrong plate, Armstrong bracket to mount the motors on. Because that's the one thing with this 26-footer that we had. 26 foot, but you lose about 3 to 4 feet of the back of the boat because of the way the motors are mounted on it, and then they have a live wells and stuff, and then they have the splash well and all that. I mean, you're losing a ton of real estate. Where I buy a 25-foot boat and I enclose the back transom and put an Armstrong plate or bracket on it. Now I just move those motors and I freed up all that real estate, and basically you just made the boat 2 feet longer, 30 inches longer when you add one of those plates on. So if anyone out there knows of where 26 or 25-foot Mako Grady White center console or not for a cheap price, hey, let us know and I'll come and get it.
Yeah, I mean, and John's been talking about this for a couple of years now, and it's like for me, like I don't even like the boat that I got because it's like too much hassle. It's like I mean, I like going boating. I don't like going fishing, and I'm not. I mean, this is the first year I owned a boat, and I mean, I hate not drinking and fucking driving around. Like I'd rather ride on somebody's boat than be in charge. And John's like, yeah, I'm just going to buy a boat. I'm going to just cut everything off of it and refiberglass the whole thing. I'm just going to make it into what I need. I just need a hull. I'm like, you are nuts. Just nuts. And like the amount, like in 99% of the things in my life, I'm a good enough guy. I'm not a perfectionist by any stretch. And so, like, I can just imagine, like, the fiberglass job that I'd have on this boat, you know? Like, to me, it just sounds like the worst thing. And I understand that, like, the amount of cost savings is, immense.
The boat that we rented, I mean, it was a 26-foot Sea Fox. And that's just kind of like low to mid-grade. And you're talking $130,000 for this boat. I'm like, that's as much as my freaking first house. I mean, more than my first house, you know? Like, holy shit. That's a lot of dough for just a boat that doesn't even have, I mean, it had a little tiny cuddy to go take a piss in, if you know, for the girls. I mean, literally. So, I got more time than money is what I always say, and I love to figure shit out. And I know I'll, do some fiberglass work, whatever. I'll build my whole. I even looked into buying plans and build my whole boat from scratch. I mean, now it's getting. I don't have a facility for that yet, but maybe my buddy Mark would let me use his building. But
that'd be something. So I think we're just gonna call this one right here.
We'll have to call it the angler, the angler archer.
Yeah, the angler archer. Find him. Where can people follow you along with your exploits on Instagram and YouTube?
Yeah, I have the angler archer, but I don't post any. Everything I do post is on the Bowhunter Chronicles. So there is the angler archer. I think it's the _angler_archer on Instagram, and I do have a website. I think I've registered it, but I never built it. So someday maybe we'll have some merch or something on it.
Well, I'll get that. I'll help you get that going, John.
Well, I don't want to take away. It's hard enough for me to get content on one freaking platform, let alone my own. So I got the things I do contribute. I got to.
Hey, we got a whole episode out of you, John.
Yeah, people are like, "Oh shit." This guy just shut up.
You got like X amount of downloads, like 2.
Right. No one wants to hear you, John. So just stay in the back corner and what did one cat say? Like, who's the guy over in the milkweed or something?
yeah. He said, who's the guy over there? Too much milkweed, just sitting there, kind of dazed out on one of the videos.
That was at
the Latitudes one.
Latitude, yeah.
So, well, all right. Thanks, John.
See ya.